Okay, let's move on. Kohlberg. Take a look at the moral stages here. Like Piaget's stages of cognitive growth, Erickson's stages of personal development, Kohlberg found that moral character grows in a developmental sequence, and this sequence is universal. Now remember this, universal. And what you will find that what he was challenged by his own PhD student. Okay, let's take a look at characteristics of each stage, each of Kohlberg's morality stage, each one morality stage. It is qualitatively different from the preceding stage. It is quality, not quantity. Okay, it is what qualitatively different, totally different, and what it represents a new stage, represents a new and more comprehensive system of mental organization, right? So it is more how should I say, more complicated, okay, more complicated than in terms of mental organization. It occurs in an invariant sequence. That is to say, people or children cannot skip a stage. It has to go from stage 1 to 2 to 3 and so on. Okay? So it is invariant. Okay? It is age-related within general groupings. Well, this what here because what? Because what? The next stage is more complex. So therefore, it is somehow linked to what? It is linked to how should I say? IQ, intelligence, IQ development. Is that right? So it is inherently linked to IQ development. And so remember what Kohlberg's 1955 doctoral his PhD thesis. So he concluded that children proceed through an invariant sequence. A movement from one stage of moral development to the next. Okay, to the next involves an internal cognitive reorganization rather than the simple acquisition of moral concept as prevalent in the culture, right? So it is not that we could instill moral lesson into the children. No, it's not like that. Okay, it entails cognitive reorganization. Hence, it is here qualitatively different, okay, from the preceding stage. All right, now Kohlberg, he used how should I? Okay. So moral dilemma, Kohlberg presented a moral dilemma to the children and to his other subjects as well. Okay, there is no right or wrong, but then of course, different people at different stages of moral development will come up with different answers. Okay, so let's take a look at the story of Hans. So in Europe, a woman was near death from a special kind of cancer. Now remember, this is a story only, okay? And there was one drug that the doctor thought might save her. It was a form of radium that a pharmacist in the same town had recently discovered. I think there is an S here. Okay, so the drug was expensive to make, but the pharmacist was charging 10 times what the drug cost him to make. He paid $200 for the radium and charged what, 2,000 for a small dose, very small dose, okay? Small dose of the drug. Now, the sick woman's husband, Hans, went to everyone he knew to borrow the money, but he could only get together about 1,000, which was only one half of what it cost. He told the pharmacist that his wife was dying and asked him to please sell it cheaper or let him pay later. But the pharmacist said, no, I discovered the drug and I'm going to make money from it. So Hans got desperate and in the middle of the night broke into the pharmacist's store and to steal the drug for his wife. Now, here's the question. Should Hans have done that? So this is the question Kohlberg was most interested in. Okay, now you have this thing here. We will come back to fill this here, okay, to fill in, okay, see how people at each stage responded to this question. All right, okay, let's take a look at, Kohlberg was stages of moral development. Okay, let me put the whole thing. Okay, all right. So we have the story of Hans. All right, there are 6 stages, guys, but then there are only 3 levels: level 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so let's take a look at level 1. Level 1 is called pre-conventional. Okay, pre-conventional moral development. Okay, now within each level we have 2 stages. Okay, so under pre-conventional we have stage 1 and stage 2. In pre-conventional level, judgment is based solely on a person's own needs and their perceptions are at the perception at this stage of moral development do not possess an organized system of moral concepts from which to operate. Okay, there's no organization. Take a look at stage 1, obedience and punishment orientation. This is stage 1. Okay, so obedience and moral decisions are based on very simple physical and material power. That is to say, right and wrong are determined by the fastest gun, okay, the biggest fist, or the biggest bomb. Okay, obey rules, but then here they obey rules to avoid punishment. Okay, so according to them here, it is wrong to steal because you might get caught. Okay, because of for fear of punishment. Okay, Kohlberg defined stage 1 as the level of punishment and obedience orientation. Okay, individuals, mainly young children, they are highly egocentric. Okay, it is for me, not what we or not you. Okay, they are concerned with their own interests, but not the interests of others. Moral dilemmas are solved solely on the basis of specific rewards or punishments individuals might receive. Okay, so that is what stage 1. Okay, let's take a look at stage 2. Naively egoistic orientation. Stage 2. So here, stage 2 actions are egocentric and based largely on satisfying one's own personal needs. Okay, so it's called naive instrumental hedonism, or naive egoistic approach. Okay, the idea is to figure out ways to make trades and exchange favors, but see if you can come out a little bit ahead on each trade. Now, take a look here. Is that one? You scratch my back and I'll scratch yours. So let's make a deal. So the orientation here is materialistic, in that moral discussions are expressed in instrumental and physical terms. Example, bribing people, stealing from the boss are okay as long as you get away with it. So this category of moral thinking is referred to as instrumental hedonism, pleasure-oriented, characterized by little human regard for the other people. So genuine empathy is lacking, although they will enter into limited reciprocity agreements. Okay? You do this to me and I'll do that to you. Okay? Children at this stage are interested in exchanging favors and use people to get what they want. Right? Now, so compared to stage 1, stage 2 thinking say, let's make a deal. Okay? Here, let's make a deal. Okay? Represent a more adequate method of problem solving. But however, let's take a look here. That in the world nowadays, say political stages, okay, see what the whole world is operating like this. Whoever has the biggest aircraft carriers will have to say this is bad. Is that right? Even at this point, the whole world is operating say country-wise at stage 1, and at times, of course, stage 2. You do this, you don't do this to me, I won't do that to you. Okay, remember what that is, the a zero nuclear ground. If you don't drop nuclear bomb on my land, and I won't do that onto your land, that type of thing. So it is not good. Is that right? Anyway, now, so let's go to Hans story. Okay, so for Hans story, then what people will say, okay, it's okay for Hans to steal the drug. Okay, because Hans needed it. But however, and also the pharmacist was himself a robber, highway robber. Okay, but however, Hans should be smart enough not to get caught. Okay, so in general, let's go here. So for the let me bring this here. Just see. All right. Yes, same here. Okay. Yes, but then they will say no, if if you may be you may get caught under that the situational factor. Remember Hawthorne and May? situational factors play important roles here. If nobody nobody knows that they could do this here, and then they will say, okay, yes, let's do it. Okay, the know is that only one day when they will get caught, and then they will say no. All right. Okay, so that is pre-conventional 1 and 2. Pre-conventional 1 and 2. All right, take a look at one here. Conventional. Conventional. The expectations of society and law are taken into account. The approval of others is important. Laws, religious or civil, are very important and are regarded as absolute and unalterable. Okay, so conventional level 2 is based upon this here. So let's take a look at stage 3. Stage 3, the good boy orientation. Okay, the orientation is based on social conformity. Okay? At this stage, a person makes moral judgments in order to do what is nice and what pleases others. Okay, because others are doing this, therefore I'm going to do this, conform to the norm. Okay, and here that's a beginning to show empathy, to feel what others may be feeling, and begin in social role-taking perspective. So here, of course, you're beginning people begin to take perspective. It's not just beginning and follow the norm. So moral judgment, the kind of follow the leading crowd one, moral judgment is other directed. So conform strictly to the fixed conventions of society. It's not from the inner self, but from what? From outside. Okay, from outside. So at this stage, children that of good boy, good girl morality, okay, good boy, good girl morality, identify strongly with their parents and other adult authority figures and strive to please them by doing what these figures want them to do. So it is what kind of in pleasing that they do it. Okay. All right. So at this stage, children seek approval from peers as well as from parents and teachers, and then they make their decisions on the basis of what they think others will think, what they think others are thinking. Adults at this stage think in terms of doing their duty, living up to expectations, and displaying virtues. Okay, for what the purpose of living up to what others' expectations. Okay, and then for the purpose of displaying virtues. Okay, all right. So that is was stage 3. That is stage 3, other oriented, all right? So here it what go by the social norm. All right, so take a look here, stage 4. Stage 4, where rules and orders are taken into consideration. The individual at stage 4 makes decisions according to existing laws or rules rigidly. So here's the very important word, rigidly. They just follow rigidly the rules. Okay? It is what Kohlberg called a system perspective, because it assumes that the solution to social conflicts reside in the context of political and legal institutions. Individuals who develop from stage 3 to stage 4, that of one authority maintaining morality, look to rules, laws, or codes for guidance in difficult situations. Okay? The change from a moral orientation based on pleasing others and being thought of favorably to a more generalized orientation that considers law and social expectations as a means toward the end of maintaining the social system as a whole. Okay, I just read you what this sentence. Okay. Now, however, they hold a rather rigid law and order orientation and tend to be more concerned with what is right than with consequences. Okay. Now let me explain. Stage 4 persons, they are impressed with the need for order and for all persons to fulfill their duties and obligations. They often, however, carry their emphasis on the need to uphold the law to the extremes. Rules, laws are seen as narrow and fixed. They see those as static. So that is what, that means what? People at stage 4, they are what? They are still, in terms of moral development, still based on concrete operational. Is that right? Concrete operational stage. Piaget was stage 3 cognitive development. They're not flexible. They're not flexible. All right. Now let's go back to what here. Go back to Hans' story, the dilemma here. Conventional free, that is to say what? In order to follow the norm, to please others, to do what pleases others. Here, according to rules and order. Okay? So here, it isn't nice to steal. What if everyone goes around just taking things? So this is one. How should I put it? I'll do this. Hold on. All right. Let me do this. I want to use one. Okay. And of course, here. All right. So at conventional free, they say, well, no. It's not nice to steal because they want to please others. What if everyone goes around just stealing? Stage 4 here. Now, Hans shouldn't do this. Hans shouldn't do this because what? Because the law must be obeyed regardless of circumstance. And remember that one of the 10 commandments, thou shalt not steal. So people at this stage are more concerned with what is right than with consequences. They see no difference between Hans and Bonnie and Clyde. Okay? Now, by no consequences means what? They don't care about Hans' wife or about a human life. Okay, a human being may die because of in the unable to obtain the drug. All right, so that one for conventional free front. No. You Hans shouldn't do it. Okay. All right, so let's move on with one. Level 3, post-conventional. Okay, post-conventional. People at these two stages, they develop more abstract and better integrated moral concepts. They move beyond the emphasis on social conventions, on law and order of stage 4. Okay. Now, individuals in the post-conventional stage, okay, they make choices on the basis of people's rights and obligations in a democratically established order. They begin to view laws more flexibly and realize that laws can be changed if they are not meeting the needs of society. Okay? So here, they evaluate existing law and see whether the law is adequate in the situation. Okay, so stage 5 individuals appreciate that certain basic rules such as liberty and equality might take precedence over the law itself. However, stage 5 individuals confine their attempts to change laws to orderly democratic activities. Now, so they will study the law and then and then make judgment about whether the current law is applicable to the current situation, like Han's situation. All right. So stage 5 is termed the morality of contract orientation or contractual legalistic orientation. So moral judgments are made according to a social contract, or decisions are made on the basis of a system of laws which are themselves judged according to the common good and social utility. Now, that is the intent of the system of laws is examined, evaluated, to derive general principles to guide the decision. And both logical and emotional domains are taken into account. Therefore, at this stage, the principles used to judge the system of laws are based on value for human life, equality, human dignity. So these are what distinguished from the static virtues and character traits, because the values and principles are universal and dynamic. So when we look at the importance of human life, look at the concept of equality and human dignity, so we may think that the law may not apply in certain situation. Okay, so that's 5. Now, see, stage 5 is quite ahead of stage 4. Stage 4 looks at law and order as static, cannot be changed. Here, stage 5, yes, depending on the situation, they can be changed after serious assessment, after serious evaluation. All right, the last stage, stage 6. Here, the morality of individual principles of conscience, Principles of conscience, moral thinking and judgments are complex and comprehensive, and diverse points of view are considered. Judgments are based on consistency and universality, together with the concern for human life, equality, human dignity. So individuals hold clear conceptions of abstract universal principles such as fairness, justice, and individual human dignity that transcend the law. Now, so here, stage 6 relies on what? Relies on universal principles to transcend the law. Okay, so what are those universal principles? Let's say love thy neighbor as thyself, that type of thing. Let's take a look here. Kohlberg, he felt that few people ever reached stage 6. So he reported that fewer than 10% of adult subjects show the kind of clear principle thinking needed for level 6. All right. So because universal moral principles are abstract, ethical, universal, and consistent, like love thy neighbor, love thy neighbor as thyself, and they are arrived at through philosophical understanding of history and existence. Okay. Now, for example, look at the called the mask mandate debate. Okay, here it is very difficult to make judgment who's right, who's wrong, is that right? But then there is a universal principle. It says something like this: the freedom to swing your arms rest at your neighbor's noses. Or the freedom to swing your one arm rest at your neighbor's nose. So these are all universal principles. Do unto others as you would others do unto you, type of thing. These are universal principles. All right. So let's take a look at Hans' story. All right, Hans' story. Let me do this. All right. Post-conventional 5. Okay. And of course, here. Okay. Now, the ethic in post-conventional 5, stage 5, the adequacy of the system of laws are evaluated against against the value of human life, equality, human dignity. That type of thing. And of course, here, human life far more important than upholding the law. Okay, so therefore, Hans should do it for saving his wife's life. Okay, says last stage 6. Yes, do it on the basis of universal principle. The value of human life is greater than the value of property. Right? So that is what here, both of these here, the thinking transcends the law. Is that right? Transcend the law. So this is the highest level of thinking. This one, a lot of people cannot do this. Is that right? Post-conventional 5. That's to say, we will have to achieve formal operation, and we will have to read a lot. We will have to understand a lot before we could do that. Okay, this here, only no more than 10% of people could achieve this, according to Kohlberg. Okay, and of course later on his own graduate student would challenge him on this. Okay, now here it is very much like Maslow. Remember Maslow at the top of the triangle is the self-actualization. You self-actualize, that means what? You want to become the best that you can be. Okay. So here, of course, here to arrive at self-actualization, moral development must be at this stage. Maybe this, but most of the time at this stage. And of course, here people will have to operate to have the ability to take perspective, start to develop empathy, that kind of thing. So must be Piaget's formal operation. And Ericsson here is to be generous. Is that right? To be generous, to to extend your hand and lift someone up or something like that, is to look after people. Okay, so this is Kohlberg's last stage, the final stage. Okay, all right. So let's take a look at age trends and moral stages. The trends are constant. Okay, stage 1 and 2 behavior becomes less frequent as age 1 increases, as people get older. Okay, now as people get older, we could see behaviors at stage 3, 4, 5, 6. Those behaviors behaviors increase, demonstrating higher thinking, demonstrating post-conventional thinking. All right. Now, hence here the stages occur in order according to Kohlberg, which is invariant. So moral growth in this sense is similar to cognitive growth. Remember cognitive growth too. Those stages are invariant. We cannot jump a stage, say from pre-operational to formal operational. No, can't do that. You have to follow stage 1 to stage 4. Okay, Chase. All right, what is modal stage plus 1? Mode, MOD, mode means the most frequently occurring behaviors. Okay, say for example, at stage 3, okay, most of the time thinking at the stage 3 level. This is called the modal stage of moral thinking. Modal stage plus 1 means if the individual is right at stage 3, but then there is a preference for more complex thinking. That's to say, while the person is at stage 3, stage 4 has a pulling effect, pull the individual towards stage 4. This is called modal stage plus 1. Okay, so that means most of the time people reason in their modal stage about say 40 to 50%. Okay, and part of the reasoning is lower and part is higher. So no one is totally in one stage at any single time. So we'll see bits and pieces of stage 2 while the person is mainly at stage 3. We find bits and pieces of stage 2 here, and we find bits and pieces of stage 4 also here. But then, of course, we'll find more of stage 4 here than stage 2. Okay, so there is a pulling effect. Okay, so that means there is a built-in preference for the next highest stage in the sequence, as if the higher reasoning component exerts a kind of pull and can gradually draw the student to a more complex level. So this is what modal stage plus one, okay? A preference for more complex thinking, okay? All right, so you see here, the attractive part of each higher stage is that it is more universal and less self-centered, and so requires what fewer rationalization. All right, so then we don't need to rationalize here. Here you will have to do that. I don't want to steal it because what? For fear of punishment. Okay. Similarly, okay, do I want to do that? Okay, well, you do that to me, I'll do it to you. But here, everybody is doing that, therefore I'm doing it. The law says this, okay? And then what? Then here, here, we want that it is what? It is more universal. This is what? Absolutely universal. This is also more universal in that what? We just think of human life as far more important than what? Than damaged property. Okay. Standing Milgram. Now, this is a famous experiment. You probably you must have read about this here. It is what the purpose is to rate subject's level of moral maturity as well as the issue of conformity. Okay, take a look at here. I'm sure most of you are familiar with the study. The subjects in the study, they were told to follow orders exactly as specified by a scientific investigator dressed in white robe, very respectable, right? A respectful person. Subjects were told that the experiment had valuable scientific significance, very valuable. Okay, so the experiment was set up to test how long subjects would follow orders and continue to administer increasing amounts of electricity to another human being. The subjects could actually hear the victim pounding on the door, wincing and screaming every time they push the button marked high voltage. Okay, of course, there's the bogus victim in the other room. Now look at the result. 65% of all subjects, regardless of age, background, or education level, they were willing to obey orders no matter what. Okay, no matter what. Oh my goodness, this is not good. Okay, now take a look here. Those who refuse to obey, stage 1 to stage 4, only 13%. But stage 4, stage 5, stage 6, 75%. See, drastic one. Here as a very significant difference between the two. Now, there are other results here, blind obedience, okay? Presence of a legitimate authority who is trusted will lead to blind obedience. So when the scientist is dressed in white robe and is addressed, Dr. Smith, okay, that type of thing. Okay, so that the white robe, the title imparts a sense of legitimate authority. And here, when a role relationship is established in which the individual is subordinated to another person, that is what subjects here subjects or each subject perceives that, well, they are not personally responsible for their behavior because, well, they do not spontaneously initiate the action, but is merely carrying out orders. When subjects see two other people refuse to accept the experimentally imposed role, 90% of them are able to disobey and defy authority command themselves. See here, when they see other people refuse to conform, they will not conform. So the presence of social norms is very important. Obedience is actually nurtured by the presence of social norms, which the individual sees as relating themselves to others. The norms come to govern and constrain what is perceived as possible and appropriate. Now, you may see that you may have already learned that in how should I say, in a mob situation, people lose their individuality. That means they may do something stupid. They normally wouldn't do that. Okay, but then afterward, without realizing that they have actually done this. In a mob situation, people tend to lose their mind. They tend to forget who they are. They just follow the norm. You see this is true. This is the case in a lot of situations. People regret it. Well, that's not me. But under in a mob situation, we have to be really careful. We have to ask the question: am I like them? It is important. This is because the psychology is strong for us to conform to the norm, to conform to the norm. Okay, all right. So this is these are what Kohlberg's stages of moral development. Okay, well established for a very long time. People are still referring to it. Okay, and then in the next video, I will talk about his own thesis student. Okay, Carol Gilligan. Okay, she opposed his theory, and then she was considered, Carol Gilligan considered to be the front runner in women's right. Okay, and I'll stop here. Okay, we will continue in the next video. All right.